Good morning, everybody. So it looks like we're going to be just a couple of us here today, but we're okay. I apologize for getting started late. We had a bunch of other things that we had to get done here, and I was meeting with a couple, and Joella was writing. So we're going to start with typically what we do is we have Progressive Prayers for Progressive People by Mark Sandlin, and we are going to open with a prayer from the prayer book on justice, kindness, and humility. Good and queering God. Daily we find that our lives are full of blessings. Despite the sometimes less than deserving ways we treat each other and the planet entrusted to our care, we do see the abundance, grace, and love that can be found in creation. Yet we recognize those times when we do not return the same kind of grace to the world, when we make donations to worthy organizations, contributing financially but do not back them up with a life of service to those in need, and thus contributing with our daily lives. We recognize those times when we embrace vengeance over justice, selfishness over kindness, arrogance over humility, when we mix up foolishness and wisdom. We recognize those times when we are more interested in fighting, greed, materialism, and competition than in serving others in humility. May we learn instead to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly every day. May that reading be blessed today. Joella, it's all you. So.
Hello, everyone. My tablet to cooperate with me. So, Reb Sam and I were talking on Friday, and he had a full plate today and wasn't sure that he could be here with me or be here today for the message. And he kind of gave me a look, and he's like, "It's all you." And in that moment, I was like, "Oh man, what am I going to talk about? I have so many things, but I have not put together a thought process." So with that, I actually made a deal with myself a couple of weeks ago that I was going to try to start watching or reading more of the news, just so I could stay up to date on current events. Reb Sam had an issue where he was banned from Facebook for posting a meme with regard to the Chinese balloon. And I had no idea what he was talking about when he first was like, "I'm locked out of Facebook." I'm like, why? That doesn't even make sense. So at that point, then I realized maybe I should, stay caught up a little bit more so. There are some days outside of, this last Friday with that conversation with Reb Sam where I am full of ideas that I want to speak on, and that particular day, there was just nothing there. So yesterday I started to scroll, or I sat down and started to scroll through some of the news articles. I saw headlines that said, "North Korea confirms test of intercontinental ballistic missile, warns of more powerful steps." And 17s, 2 younger kids shot at Columbus gas station after dispute at a party. And juvenile dead in Cedar Rapids shooting Saturday. And I read another one that the headline was, "Republicans take aim at risque jokes and romance novels with anti-sex bills." Maybe it's needless to say, but after spending some time scrolling through the headlines and reading some of the articles, I felt a heaviness that for me a lot of times is hard to come back from. I'll usually need a day or two just to recoup from that. But thankfully, I was able to do something good for my teens. And then I hosted an event where I was able to teach boundaries and consent and the importance of non-sexual touch to a group of people. You know, in that group of people, there was a gentleman that joined us that hasn't felt consensual touch in so long that he was, you could tell there was physical stress. By the time he walked out, though, he was grinning from ear to ear, and it just involved a little bit of somebody rubbing his shoulders or giving him a hand massage or simple things like that. And because of that event, I was also able to come out of that dark place and graciously accept the genuine compliments of the people who attended that workshop. And I was able to walk out with my emotional cup full of joy. This all leads into the, so I was still struggling on my way into church this morning, and I had already turned off the audiobook that I was listening to. It was a book about attachment theory and how it shows up, how you get attachment wounds as children and how it shows up in your adult lives. So I turned off that audiobook, and I was doing the best that I could while driving, of course, to shut out some of the louder thoughts that were prevalent in my head so that I could come up with a message that I could bring today. And then there it was, a ginormous billboard that said, "Be the difference." I don't remember what the billboard was advertising at all, but that message stood out to me. And in that moment, I started digging into all of the thoughts that were swirling around in my brain for what that meant specifically to me. And that the workshop that I hosted last night stood out. Be the difference. I was, me hosting that workshop last night was the difference in that man's life between going on with another day where he felt less than. Like he was able to walk out with his emotional cup full and overflowing. Being the difference for me has been over the last couple of years, taking in my 2 teen nieces and taking on the care of them and my great nephew. Those girls came to me already carrying their fair share of emotional baggage and trauma. But I got them out here, and I naively thought by just removing them from one place and bringing them out here, and the idea that if I just share the aspects of my life with them, they would see how dramatically different life could be than it was back home with family, and they could be as excited about healing childhood wounds as I am. I guess you could even say that I expected them to be self-aware enough that they would find their healing process and work through it as independently as I have. This morning, tying that situation into the theme of being the difference, another reoccurring theme stood out, and that was fear. The girls came to me with a very healthy fear of authority figures in their lives. People who said that they were going to show up and be there for them, to protect them and love them and keep them safe. Those people weren't there in that capacity. With the girls, I found instead of what I was expecting, which I shouldn't have been holding expectations to begin with. I found a lot of resistance, a lot of frustration and anger that's been directed at me, a lot of uncertainty, and definitely a lack of trust. And this is all despite the amount of love that I poured into them at every chance that I had. And, I didn't really tell them often enough how much they were loved, cherished, how much they were appreciated in my life. I haven't told them how much they each bring a glowing smile to my face when I hear them talking about the things that they're passionate about. And I haven't told them enough that despite what is happening in their world, no matter how scared they are, or that I am going to treat them like I am not going to treat them like they've been treated by others. And no matter how scared they are, that I'm not going to abandon them. I have absolutely zero plans to do either of those things. And despite what is going on in their lives and how frustrated I may get over the circumstances we're all facing now, we're all in this together. I still love them. They are my world, and I will stand by them regardless of the circumstances. In this situation with my girls, I want to show them that being the difference means that I'm not going anywhere, and that I have their backs at all times, not just when things are good. And that when their fear is at its highest, that I am the first person that they can turn to, and I will walk them through that fear to get to the other side of it. So, and not just in the situation with my girls, but in our everyday lives. I really want to lean into some of the things that I can do, that I can assist others to do, that I can share to come out of these fear-based reactions that we're having, and show up with more love and gratitude. So I want to ask you all now, how can we do this in such a way that it ripples out into the communities so that we are reading less and less of these headlines like the ones I named off today? How can we be the difference? Well, I know one thing that's helped me is by asking ourselves, is my reaction to this situation based out of fear, or is it based out of love? And if you find that it is based out of fear, how can you get it to a point where you're reacting more out of love when we're feeling triggered? We can start by listening. One of the quickest ways that I end up triggered, one of my wounds that I still am working on to this day, I get triggered the most when I am telling somebody something really vulnerable and raw about myself or the situation that I'm facing, and I find that they're not listening. Something just as simple as asking someone else how they're doing, how their day is going, and genuinely, with interest and curiosity, listen to their response. We can give with no strings attached. This could be giving of our time, giving of our financial abundance, giving our energy. Rev Sam actually got on me last week about washing the dishes that were in the sink because some of them were left over from him from the day before. But a lot of times, if I have a dish that I want to wash and there are multiple ones in the sink, I just go ahead and do them all because I'm standing there and I'm already, my hands are already wet, the soap is already flowing, and I'm going to do that with no strings, with no expectation that somebody needs to repay me or that I'm not doing it with any expectation of anything, really. We can use our skills for good. One of the things that I am most often complimented on is my heart and how I show up to situations and use my heart and my love of helping people. All of those skills I've learned throughout life from the situations that I've been in, and I use the things that I've learned for good instead of the track that I could potentially have stayed on. For instance, officiating my dad's funeral. I could have very easily had absolutely nothing to do with his arrangements and stayed bitter and angry. But instead, I got up to that podium and I spoke my truth and I spoke his truth. And I spoke those words from a place of love and compassion. And I didn't need to. For all the things that I'd been through, it would have been understood if I had spoke from a place of anger and bitterness. We can be a good neighbor. If you have somebody, one of your neighbors is disabled in any way or is elderly, we can do things such as shoveling their walk or their driveway, or the old cliche of helping them carrying their groceries, or anything. We can do anything out of the kindness of our hearts to make their lives just a little bit easier. We can volunteer our time or our money. A lot of my time is spent volunteering for the things that I'm passionate about because I want to get that love and that compassion out to a wider circle of people. So I volunteer a lot of time getting it out there and spreading that message. You can write notes of gratitude. Sometimes, with my partner, I would leave little love notes, just sticky notes, stick them on his bathroom mirror, anything, just something to start his day off with a smile, and just letting him know how grateful I was for him in my life. I think maybe I should start doing that a little bit more so with my kids. And, a little common courtesy goes a long way. Nice gestures go a long way. Small kindnesses can always help. We never know the kind of day that someone is having, the bad news that they just got, the loss that they're struggling with. We don't know the health crisis they're undergoing, the dark thoughts they're wrestling with. Hold the door for strangers. Say good morning and thank you, and be generous with your compliments and words of appreciation. I know I love it when I'm receiving them. It's hard for me to receive them because I grew up without really knowing without receiving without receiving compliments or words of appreciation. So it's hard for me today, but I still feel that little flutter of joy and happiness when I receive them. And I get it. I know it's hard to think of others when we're feeling overwhelmed, when, our heads are down, we're lost in our worries and our task list. But there are always small and simple ways that we can give to help somebody come out of that fear base that they're in and help them move more into a place of joy and happiness and gratitude. And by just those small, simple gestures, that's how we become the difference that we want to see in this world. If we stop reacting out of fear, stop judging based out of fear or on the unknown, and just start stepping up to help our fellow humans. One of the things that I am very adamant on, I do not believe in heaven or hell. I believe that heaven is the joy and the happiness that we find in the here and now. And I believe hell is the world that we live in currently, with all of the loss and the violence and the greediness and all of those negative things. I believe that is our hell. And I think that the way that we can step out of that hell and find our heaven is more in the joy that we help bring to the world around us, more in the happiness that we help fulfill, more in the joy that we help create. And as a last, kind of bringing things in, the last article that I came across today before sitting down to write this message was that President Jimmy Carter is entering hospice care after a series of short hospital stays. President Carter is the longest lived American president. And, in 1980, he lost in a landslide loss to Ronald Reagan, And this loss ultimately paved the way for decades of global advocacy for democracy, public health, and human rights. He started the Carter Center with his wife, Rosalind, in 1982, and through his work there, he even won a Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. He took annual trips to build homes with Habitat for Humanity, as well as trips abroad as part of the Carter Center's election monitoring service, that doesn't sound quite right, efforts. And he also was involved in an effort to eradicate the guinea worm parasite in developing countries. And for the last several decades, he's taught Sunday school lessons at Arantha Baptist Church before standing room only crowds of visitors. The Carter Center marked last year marked its 40th year of promoting human rights. This is a man who could have, walked away from the presidency and lived the rest of his life in that legacy. But instead, he stepped forward and he continued to give back. He was a difference in the world. And now he is about to cross over into or transition into another phase of his life, and I feel as though we should celebrate more of those type of people and honor them in this life. And I'm going to end today with a prayer out of the Progressive Prayers for Progressive People. And this prayer is entitled On Becoming Just, Kind, and Humble. We have heard the words of the prophets instructing us to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly. Let us turn our hearts and minds to places in the world where those things sometimes seem difficult to come by. In the struggle for justice for all, in places around the world where there is civil unrest and violence, as people call for change, may justice prevail in a way that no one is left behind and no one is taken for granted. In our efforts to love kindness, we are reminded of the divides that the judgment from churches can, has, and continues to cause. May loving kindness be extended not only inside the walls of the church, but in a way that it is extended to everyone outside the walls as well. May we learn humility. May we learn not to feel as if we are more deserving than anyone else. May we stop judging others because they don't agree with us or for not doing things the way that we would prefer. May we be reminded that living lives of love in action is part of the prescription for a world where no one must suffer, and we may be inspired to begin doing that even more fully today. Amen. Sam, would you like to come up for announcements and final thoughts?
All right, we've got some announcements coming up. Last year we did the Wine and Chocolate Sunday, and we are going to be doing that again. So You might be watching this and going, wine and chocolate on Sunday. And I'm not talking about communion. I'm talking about something so radical. We're going into Lent. And Lent is always a time where people give up chocolate, wine, coffee. Yet I see the drive-through at Starbucks. People start to panic already. My friends and people that I know are already in panic, thinking they have to give up something for Lent. And of course, I didn't grow up in that kind of a tradition, so I didn't grow up giving up anything for Lent. And so I have tried to explore ways that we can do more and experience, be a little more sensitive to life and people. So we did this last year, and it was a home run. We had people bring their favorite wine and chocolate and some snacks. We don't have church in the morning, and we just have church in the afternoon. And we watch the movie Chocolat. So if you've never seen that movie, it's a beautiful Lent movie. And it's religious without trying to be religious. It's not the typical Christian movie. I'm not crazy about Christian movies, and I grew up seeing Christian movies in church all the time, and usually are pretty bad. Bad acting, bad scripts, bad camera work. But this is a Hollywood movie starring Johnny Depp, Juliette Binoche, Alfred Molina. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie about what life is really about, what caring for others is really about, kind of going along with Reverend Joella's message, reaching out of yourself and being genuine and real and really caring for people. So we've got a tentative date of March 26th for the Wine and Chocolate Sunday. It was funny, I love the fact when we put something out in Nextdoor or in the community thing, people start to freak out because it's different. And we got accused of some weird stuff last year of, what people thought we were, and that's not Christian. And so we're just trying to be us. So we're not trying to be anything different than what we are. So prepare yourself. Lent is 40 days before Easter, and we will have the Wine and Chocolate Sunday. And so I'm excited about that. Lent starts on Wednesday. Yeah, it starts with Ash Wednesday. I think that's it. Oh, we got some other things that we've expressed some interest in. For all of you that watch us afterwards, we've had Joella's brought up some interesting ideas of talking about having some kind of workshops on religious trauma, which I think is very genuine and very real. We have some of our friends that I have a friend that's Mark, who has talked about having some classes on Enneagram. So there's a lot of things we can do that we're excited about. So hopefully you'll hear more about that going through the spring and summer. And I think that's about it. Thank you for all of you that are watching us and will be watching us. I once again apologize. I have 14 days left of being banned from broadcasting live on Facebook, which I don't get it. So I just made fun of the Chinese balloon, and I got banned for a month for making fun of the Chinese balloon. I didn't even show a picture of the Chinese balloon. It was a funny meme about a guy floating on a balloon wearing a Speedo. I still don't get it. But it was making fun of the Chinese balloon I still have 14 days as of today. We have 14 days left of being in Facebook probation. So anyway, I can't do like, but we always broadcast on YouTube, and then we'll post it on Facebook like in a minute. It's crazy, so it doesn't even make sense. Anyway, we're so glad that you can join us. please, please, please share this video. We'll put it out. We'll put it out with our friends at the Progressive Alliance. We'll put it out with we can actually put it on our Facebook page from YouTube, but we can't be on Facebook with this broadcast for 2 more weeks. So right about the Wine and Chocolate Sunday. So anyway, blessings to everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm going to have Joella go and end the broadcast so we got a million things to do still today. And